19 errors. Let that number marinate for a second, because it's not just a stat. It's the reason the Philadelphia Phillies front office is now making calls to Anaheim. Trea Turner, owner of an 11-year, $300 million contract, currently leads all of Major League Baseball in errors at shortstop. And according to infield coach Bobby Dickerson, this is a fluke. It's mental, it's structural, and it's putting the entire roster in what Dickerson bluntly called a bad place. Let's start with a StatCast profile, because the numbers back up exactly what Dickerson is describing in the clubhouse. Turner's out above average has cratered this season. His reaction times on ground balls are showing hesitation patterns typical of a player second-guessing his footwork instead of trusting his first read. Dickerson's quote to Scott Lauber, the Philadelphia Inquirer, paints the picture perfectly. The ball's put in play, and he's thinking more about what to do with his body than engaging with the ball. That's not an athleticism problem. Turner still has plus speed. His sprint speed metrics remain in an elite percentile. This is a processing issue, a yips-adjacent freeze that's turned one of the game's most dynamic defenders into a defensive liability during a pennant race. And here's where it compounds. Turner's offensive numbers have dipped in this same stretch. When a player is fighting himself defensively, it bleeds into the batter's box. Under Rob Thomson, the Phillies have built their lineup construction around Turner as a table setter, someone who forces pitchers to speed up their delivery, who turns singles into doubles, who changes the calculus of every at-bat behind him. A version of Turner who's pressing at shortstop is also a version of Turner who's laid on fastballs and chasing off-speed stuff he'd normally lay off. The two struggles are feeding each other, and Thompson's coaching staff knows it. Now, let's pivot to the roster mechanics, because this is where things get complicated fast. ESPN's Jeff Poston has confirmed the Phillies have engaged Angels on Zack, and this is a speculative farm system fit. Neto is a legitimate two-way shortstop who profiles as an immediate defensive upgrade. If Philadelphia actually pulls this off, the ripple effect across the depth chart are massive. The most logical scenario, Turner shifts to second base, which means Bryson Stott needs a new address. Stott, a Gold Glove caliber defender in his own right, could slide to the outfield corner or become part of a positional logjam that forces the front office to get creative. Some in the industry have floated Stott as a trade chip himself in a separate move, which would offset some of the prospect capital going to Anaheim for Neto. Others believe Thomson keeps Stott in the infield mix as a super utility piece, rotating in between second and third, depending on matchups. Here's the harder question. Does Turner even want to move off shortstop? Players who sign $300 million deals typically do so with positional identity baked into the contract's value proposition. Turner was paid as an elite two-way shortstop. Sliding him to second base, even if it's the right baseball decision, creates an optics problem and a pride problem that Thomson and the front office will have to manage delicately in the clubhouse. This isn't just a lineup card change. It's a conversation with a $300 million cornerstone about redefining his role 3 years into an 11-year commitment. Now let's talk salary cap and competitive balance tax implications. Because acquiring Neto isn't about payroll, his rookie scale, pre-arbitration contract, makes him one of the more valuable assets in baseball on a value per dollar basis. Neto is making close to the league minimum, which means Philadelphia isn't taking on meaningful CBT number in this swap. The real cost isn't cash, it's prospects. Any deal centered on Neto likely requires the Phillies to dip significantly into their farm system. And this is where things get painful for an organization that's already thin at the upper levels after years of aggressive win-now trades. Names like Justin Crawford and Aiden Miller become central to trade speculation, premium, controllable, cost-effective talent that the Angels would covet as they retool. Trading from that already shallow pipeline compounds long-term concerns about sustainability once this championship window with Turner, Bryce Harper, Zack Wheeler, and Aaron Nola eventually closes. There's also a question of who absorbs the largest chunk of that luxury tax number long-term. Philadelphia has flirted with the top of the CBT thresholds in each of the past several seasons. Adding Neto doesn't blow up the number today, but subtracting the prospect capital it costs to get him further limits Philadelphia's ability to backfill the roster through cheap, controllable talent in 2027 and beyond. Every team operating at the top tax bracket eventually needs young, inexpensive contributors to offset the mega contracts on the books. Turner's deal, Harper's extension, Wheeler's extension, trading that young talent away for a shortstop swap accelerates the aging curve of this roster's core. From a pure baseball operations lens, though, the move makes sense. Philadelphia's championship window doesn't wait for Turner to work through the yips. Don't forget, Thompson's staff has watched this skit unfold in real time following the All-Star break, and while the surge earlier in the year created buzz about a deep postseason run, recent losses have exposed just how fragile this roster is defensively. A shortstop making 19 errors by late July isn't sustainable in a playoff race, where every ground ball matters, every routine out becomes a talking point, and every defensive miscue can flip a one-run game. If Neto arrives, expect an adjusted batting order almost immediately. Thompson could keep Turner in a similar lineup slot, likely F for the two-hole, since his bat-to-ball skills and speed still play regardless of position. But defensively, sliding him to second base simplifies his reads, shortens his throws, and could genuinely stabilize the infield down the stretch. Neto, meanwhile, slots in as a plus defender who can hit near the bottom third of the order early while he acclimates to a new city, before potentially climbing as his track record with the Phillies grows. The other layer here worth mentioning: chemistry. Turner has been a vocal veteran leader in that clubhouse, and how he handles a positional pivot, publicly and privately, will say a lot about where this Phillies core stands heading into the stretch run. If he embraces it, this becomes a feel-good storyline about a superstar sacrificing ego for team success. If there's friction, it becomes a distraction the Phillies can't afford with the Mets and Braves still lurking in the National League East standings. Bottom line, Dickerson's comments weren't a slip of the tongue. They were a calculated signal from inside the organization that patience has run out on waiting for Turner's defense to self-correct. The front office is actively pursuing a solution on the trade market, and as Zack Neto lands in Philadelphia before the deadline, it reshapes not just the infield depth chart, but the entire identity of this roster heading into what could be a defining postseason push. Whether this move happens in the next 48 hours or gets shelved for the offseason, one thing is clear. The Phillies know they have a problem, and for the first time all season, they're being brutally honest about it in public. If you want the reaction the moment this trade is confirmed or denied, make sure you're subscribed to the channel with notifications turned on. Drop a comment. Do you trust Trea Turner at second base, or does this front office need to swing even bigger before the deadline buzzer? Smash that like button if you want more real insider breakdowns like this one, and I'll see you in the next video.